Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and I'm here with another diplomatic briefing. This time, I'm going to talk about the Trilateral Conference held on Saturday in Pakistan. The nations involved were Pakistan, China, and Afghanistan. The foreign ministers of all these three countries met in order to address some of the issues that are common to this country. It appears that May is the month to deal with Afghanistan. There have been three major, shall we say, statements coming out about Afghanistan. There was a meeting in the beginning of the month between the National Security Advisor of India, Ajit Doval, and the Iranian National Security Advisor. They issued a statement with regards to Afghanistan. There was a UN-hosted conference in Doha, Qatar, on Afghanistan. There was a statement from that, and then there is this statement from Iran, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. So with regards to this, it is clearly an indication that Afghanistan is still a very important country for regional security and geopolitics, especially with regards to South Asia, Middle East, and Central Asia. And of course, this lingering guilt in the United States that perhaps we abandoned Afghanistan once again too early, and there will be consequences to pay in the near future because of the United States abandonment and early departure from Afghanistan before some of the key issues were settled. So let's first talk about the Trilateral Conference, in which basically China scolded both the countries, told Pakistan to get its act together, reduce political instability, and combat terrorism. China also scolded Afghanistan and essentially said what I would also have suggested if they had asked my opinion, and that Afghanistan fulfill its regional and international commitments to establish an inclusive government, to combat terrorist groups which are based in Afghanistan, and also try to improve its relationship with its neighbors. At the meeting that Ajit Doval hosted, the statement that came out of Tehran was basically calling upon the Afghanistan government or the Taliban to establish an inclusive government. And the statement that came out of Doha also says the same thing with one difference. The Western demands, which were in addition to the international agreement that the US made with the Taliban when it left Afghanistan, was that Taliban would establish an inclusive government. That means it would include all the ethnic groups that are there in Afghanistan, the Tajiks, the Uzbeks, besides the Pashtuns. And it also would include people who are, say, from the Shia background, as opposed to just a Sunni Pashtun government. And the international community also expects, and Taliban has agreed to this, that it will combat groups such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and other terrorist groups that are thriving in Afghanistan. China was specific in pointing out to ETIM, the East Turkestan Islamic movement, which operates in China. Pakistan was focused on TTP. So the main focus of these countries, that is non-Western countries, is on those items. But the West also insists on improving the situation of women's rights, women's role in the public sphere, women's role in educational system. At the moment, Afghanistan is easily the worst country to be a woman in. You cannot work. It's very difficult to go into the public sphere unless you wear the burqa and you have a companion, a male companion with you. And it's also impossible for young women to go to school beyond sixth grade. So there is no higher education. Women of this generation under Taliban are condemned to jahiliyyah, that they will become illiterate and ignorant. And that is a huge concern, because to a great extent, one of the reasons why the US had justified its extended stay in Afghanistan was empowerment of women. Now that we've educated a generation of young women in Afghanistan and they are being forced to stay at home, this is truly a travesty. It seems that everybody in the region are eager to engage with Afghanistan, but nobody wants to recognize Afghanistan. None of these countries, which keep issuing statements which are sympathetic to Afghanistan, recognize the importance of Afghanistan, call for engagement with Afghanistan, but nobody is ready to recognize Afghanistan because they feel that unless Afghanistan makes changes in its politics and its policies, there is no point in rewarding it. If it is rewarded for its current policies by recognition and acceptance in the international community, then there is no incentive or pressure on Afghanistan to change. So I have a feeling that while the rest of the world would love Afghanistan to join the community of nations, the biggest loser is Afghanistan because of the policies of Afghanistan. The world is not going to engage with Afghanistan unless it really makes significant changes on at least two issues, which is the inclusion of other ethnic groups and communities in the governing of Afghanistan. And number two, it improves the human rights situation of women. As far as the fighting of terrorism is, nations are willing to support it. So Afghanistan is not alone on that. Pakistan, China, India, Iran, the West are all willing to provide Afghanistan with support to combat the terrorist organizations because it is in everybody's interest to essentially erode and diminish their capacity to hurt anybody. So it is fascinating and interesting that the Taliban are willing to force their population to go through various humanitarian crises, food crisis, healthcare crisis, but not give them democracy, freedom, and especially to women. So it is interesting that we have had in this 1 month, we are still, today is 8th of May, we've already had in May 3 different conclaves where the future of Afghanistan was discussed, and it was only in one that Afghanistan was a participant, that was in the Trilateral in Pakistan. And I just wanted to let the viewers know that Amirullah Muttaqi, the acting foreign minister of Afghanistan, had to get special permission to travel because UN sanctions also prevent Afghan leaders from traveling abroad. So I hope you found this brief diplomatic briefing on the trilateral event in Pakistan with regards to Afghanistan and other declarations that happened this month about Afghanistan. So it seems this month, everybody in the world are talking about Afghanistan. So before I check out, please subscribe to Khanversations, ring the bell icon, like the video, and make sure you share it with all your friends and your social network. Thank you. This is Muqtedar Khan.